Good evening. I'm Charlotte Cummins, Director of Education and Programs, and on behalf of MIMOCA staff and Board of Trustees, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 6th Annual Stephen Fleischman Lectureship, featuring the renowned artist Mel Chin. Mel Chin's lecture is made possible by the Stephen Fleischman Distinguished Lecture Fund. The lectureship is an annual event and has free admission in recognition of the museum's dedication to providing access to opportunities for learning and enrichment. This lecture honors Stephen Fleischman, and we are delighted that he is here tonight. Please mark your calendars for a virtual panel discussion on lead with Mel Chin and Wisconsin activist. This event will be held the evening of Thursday, May 19th, and you can join us by clicking the link on our website. Tonight's lecture will be recorded and uploaded to our website at mimoca.org. Please refrain from recording and remember to silence your cell phones. For tonight's event, we will have a short question and answer session after Mel has finished his lecture. Mel Chin creates idiosyncratic objects that require multidisciplinary collaborative teamwork. He pioneered the field of green remediation with Revival Field and initiated the Gala Committee to conduct a public art project on primetime television with In the Name of the Place. His actions to end childhood poisoning through mass public engagement activated 500,000 individuals through the Fundred Project. Since the start of 2022, over 2,500 Fundreds have been completed by children in Madison schools, and Fundreds are being distributed to children and families in outlying Madison communities. Mel Chin, a recipient of many awards, received a MacArthur Fellowship in 2019 and was elected into the American Academy of Arts and Letters in 2021. So it is with great pleasure that we welcome Mel Chin to MIMOCA.
Okay. It's been so long I've been around people, so we'll keep it casual. If I miss something, you could just holler out. If I slur my words, please correct me. English is a second language. I'm from Texas, so we'll go from there. So I thought the best thing to do, no, it's not the best thing, but I thought we'd start with a trailer, you know? Like make it like a real production, you know? I gotta put my password in, so y'all can repeat after me, you know. And let's just go here, I think. And it's been a great crew, and we just pulled this together, so let's start with the trailer, and we'll take off, all right?
I went to Santiago. Permanent instructions.
I went to America, to New York.
Go there.
9/11 was completed in 2007, but it began shortly after the events in New York City. I remember I was in Detroit, and I was at a party with people from LA and New York, and we were complaining about how safe our cities were. By morning, it had happened, and I returned. I remember walking toward Ground Zero with a dear friend, and I couldn't make it to the end because I looked at the pictures that were being gathered and the dust and the debris and the bits of everything that had fallen. And I remember saying, oh no, now hope must be eradicated somewhere else. Because I knew how these events escalate into a path toward nationalism. And in my own history, I had learned that in 1973, on 9/11, there was an attack on the presidential palace in Chile. It resulted in the death of the president, and it was a takeover by a dictator. And it was orchestrated, as you might all know now, by the Central Intelligence Agency under Nixon and Kissinger. So when it happened, why I wasn't going to make an expose or a narrative about it. But my interest was, can art create not an alternative story, but can a fiction convey a way of decentering that preoccupation with nationalism that leads us to things we're witnessing, some in here, and something that's happening in Ukraine through Russia. So this is the face of it. And so I did a graphic novella and put it up. It's up, I think, in the museum, and the novella itself is available for you to review. So that was the first effort, and it takes a while to make the film. And the film, you don't have to go home and stream it. It is here. But if you do want to go home, it's also free on YouTube to watch. So I just want to let you know. Okay? That's a lake, frozen. Y'all seen this before? I had to take this picture because it reminded me of something. It's the lines from Kafka, where he said, the book is an axe for the frozen sea within us. I just looked at this and I said, well, I got to talk about the lecture acts. Now, some things are not in the exhibition, so this talk is more like giving some ideas of where ideas come from and how come they form. So now, I'm a little nervous because I haven't practiced this talk. I just formed it. I stayed up and did this. So, but for my very first talk was at the New School for Social Research in New York. And everybody knows that's a school full of commies. And it was in the 80s, and I had finished this work called The Operation of the Sun to the Cult of the Hand. And I would have been comfortable, but it was not the art school, but actually the Graduate School of Psychology and Philosophy. Therefore, you're terrified because you know it, and just don't shake your head, oh, not me, because you know. They would expose that you didn't know what you were talking about, and the School of Psychology would uncover deep early childhood trauma. And so I was not prepared. I couldn't even prepare notes, and I made this object out of a book. So the head of the axe is a book that I carved from a dictionary, and I shaved it, and I put wax over it, and then I made a stick out of a 2x4. So I made something rather than preparing a lecture. And I put notes in it and sealed it up, and I wrapped it in newspaper, and I went to the lecture with a 6-pack of beer. So when I sat down, and back then it was a bunch of men smoking pipes. There's a, I don't know why, but they were in this U-shaped kind of thing, and I was sitting there. I started to drink. I'm Asian Brotherhood and sister in here. Maybe some of y'all. I know Milwaukee's full of beer, but when you drink, do you turn red? Do you get headaches? Yeah, it's a physiological condition, the inability to assimilate the toxin of aldehyde, right? Any doctors confirm later. Anyway, so here I'm turning red, I'm getting sick, but I keep drinking. And finally, the dude from the School of Psychology says, Mr. Chin, I think it's time to speak. So I jump up and I rip the paper off the lecture axe, and I hold it and I shout, "This is an axe!" And the grad school dude from psychology says, "What the fuck are you going to do?" And I turned around and I slammed it into the blackboard, and it exploded, and the notes fell out. And I picked them up and I said, "In Chinese philosophy, you begin with an axe." It was very successful because first I was drunk, so I don't even know if it was successful. But the important thing was that, it had created such an impression that they were terrified. And therefore, anytime they would want to ask a question, I would just say, I would slur out, "I don't want to talk about that." And they say, "Okay, whatever you want to do." Now, but at a deeper level, why an axe and what it promoted was something that was isolated by the great scholar Elaine Scarry from Harvard now, when she was at the University of Pennsylvania, in a book called The Body and Pain, where she describes the making and the unmaking of the world, and how pain in its final incarnation is war and torture. And war and torture will completely remove the capacity for language to form, and meaning the demise of culture. Inversely, imagination, because if you could shut your eyes and forget about me, and something will always form in your mind. This is fundamental for the verb to drive. That thing will be driven by the verb you create, and that is the remaking in her mind of the world. I like to think that amongst us, the ones involved with the world of arts and creativity, we're in that camp of making, and that's where we should stay, because we know for sure the world is comprised of these two things, and it will never seem to end. Things come from books, and we showed the lecture acts. And back in the 70s, I was a student. Yeah, that's right, barely. But I came upon Donald, how's his name? Barthelme? Donald Barthelme. Sadness, and I saw this image. I loved it, so I said, "Man, it's his collage." But I took it and I just obsessed about why she was in that pose. I later found it in the 30th canto of Gustave Doré's illustration. This is actually from an actual edition from the collection here, right? Right.
Special Collections Library, UW.
UW Library Special Collections.
Yes,
thank you very much. Miss Robin Ryder, thank you very much. Or we wouldn't have it. So this is what you go searching for. So your obsession leads to search, and then you can begin, and then you do things that you string up a skeleton, you buy a thing and say, well, it's impossible. That pose is so torturous, which is important to note. And then you start making your studies, and you're out to do something. It was for my very first commission in the city of New York. I just had arrived, and I got a commission to work in one of the most drug-infested and it's a tough neighborhood in Bryant Park back then, behind the New York Public Library. And so I started to make the piece. Instead of, I made it by hand so that people could watch me bend the iron. Well, I wanted to learn how to weld, but I wanted to use 19th century and kind of industrial methodologies to create this piece. So it was done over time. It was created, as you can see, and finally, and all the drawings, I was thinking about the graphical element of Doré's engraving and how the modern age was coming. This is 84, and upcoming was the digital, and this grid network, and the dot matrix or the pixels that would be filled. We could use the technologies of coming now to encapsulate an idea. Now, what I mean about encapsulating, it's called Meropeia. Mera is from the incest myth, or the myth from Metamorphosis, Ovid. And the thing about it, when you read it, you kind of get upset or just it's not right. Because it seems to me is an apologist position to say this incest was provoked by the daughter. I just didn't get it. It didn't seem right. And so this piece was also about this time of '84. We were believing in apocalyptic kind of ideas, but certain things needed to be encapsulated and put away. Maybe the industrial age that had polluted and created this monstrosity, as well as everything we have of consumption, but also ideas and the death of the idea needed to be entrapped. So that's how you reason when you're a young guy living in New York. And so it opened up and we did it, all right? And you notice on the pedestal in the many seasons, it was there. Now, why is it this way here? Is what I was asked. And because I felt that our time is a torturous time where I thought would never return. And now there are questions of equality that are about, and even reproductive rights. And I felt like the death has been untrapped. So I uncracked it. I broke the piece to display it. So this is a contemporary version of it to mark this time of a piece that I made back then that I was hoping for another outcome. But we're not there yet. So this configuration is intentional. And my hope is in your mind, you can hope to piece it back together and seal it back up again and put it as a thing of the past, but it's not. There's an anecdote that I was asked to, but there's some good things. While I was making the piece, it was a frightening experience because it was in a drug park, and there was prostitution, there was constant graft and corruption happening before me. I witnessed it all, quietly trying to make art. It was a Public Art Fund's idea to put an artist in these kind of environments so it could maybe even tame the environment and people would be interested. And I said, okay, I'm just going to do it. And I stretched it out. I think it was a 6-week project. I think I might have overdid it and stretched it out to 3 months, 4 months. But same budget, I think about $4,000, I don't know. So moving everything, the I-beams, all myself, and just working alone, mostly. Well, what happened was during one summer, there was a guy who was one of the chief dealers. I call him, his name, I don't know, I'll call him Juan. I saw him gut somebody in front of me. I was terrified of him, and I refused to make eye contact. I was like Mira. I would avert my eyes. I was fearful for my life, but I kept making art. Then one day, he said it. He looked at me because we never spoke. Near the end, he says, I got my eye on you. I said, this is precisely what I didn't want to have happen. He says, you think I sell these drugs to make money? I sell these drugs because I believe I must leave this place. I want to get out of this place. And he said, I want to build a spaceship. And I've been looking for the person to build it. I think I have found him. That didn't relieve me because that's another obligation. But I was deeply moved that he expressed something to me about his internal life and the idea that maybe the Public Art Fund was right. There was an engagement that was worthy. So don't be so negative, Mel. When we're talking about, this is not an exhibition, but these are unauthorized collaboration, and it relates to this idea of Mira, I felt. I put it in there because it's these paintings that convey maybe a husband and wife, maybe a father and a mother, and I just simply did a simple incision. I put one hand off in one place and one in another. It's called Dominance and Affection. But it relates to who tells the story. And so this is these paintings that I would occasionally cut up and put there. I put it in there because I think it relates to the story. And again, books. So sometimes you could look at a book, and if you look on this page, what is that? What page is that? 341, and I think it's the third Webster International Dictionary Standard, the complete unabridged volume. And if you read this, this is the Carolina parakeet, and it misses one part. It doesn't mention that it's extinct. This is the Native American bird that was driven dead all gone by 1918, right? So this piece comes out of the book. It was carved directly. I took the book, waxed it together, because saw that technique, was thought process. You saw that, right? Remember the axe? So I did this to the book, and I began to cut it and carve it, and this piece is called The Bird is the Word. I'm remarking on how we live in a time where not only words are extinct, and then maybe we don't have the words to describe the extinction of species happening at such a rapid rate. It is uncontrollable, and our destinies are tied up within it. So as we talk about language being extinct, there's also the extinction of sounds and species that we will never hear again, and it's on our watch. So these pieces there, this is also animals that are featured. This is the dry land museum presentation, so you could see the pieces, and this is the sea mink, extinct 1890s, and they're molds that you can't put back together. See, it's separated from the date. If you wanted to cast these things, it's not going to happen. It's permanently welded apart, right? Or you have the Labrador duck, so the other sides on the side, you can't piece it together for you. I think it might be for me. Time's up. How are we doing? Keep going. Okay. All right. So, but anyway, how it was originally was in, see, this is the way it was. It was for the, now also, there are shows that you get into that you think you're so smarty pants and highfalutin, and you said, I'm never going to be in that show, because I got the invitation at Central Park, good location, but it was the Noah's Art Show. I said, I don't want to do that. But then, if you get an idea, it's the best title of a show you could ever be. If you're a young artist, you got to be in that show. So I went overboard. I went to the Harvard Museum of Comparative Zoology and began to cast the animals from actual species, getting access to information and methodologies to create the work, because you have to do it. This is the Labrador duck in a pond situation. This is the heath hen, extinct 1932 in an area within Central Park. And this is the passenger pigeon, 1914, set in the environment where it would have been had it not been driven to extinction. The piece was called The Conditions for Memory. I didn't make this piece, so you have to be transparent and honest. I see some art historians here. And I could have said I did it and gotten away with it, but not really. The great Louise Bourgeois, right? So, yeah. But, just because you did one doesn't mean you can't make your own. But, for your own, so you can put it in little discreet places, a little smaller. Park it when people aren't looking in people's houses. Just do this thing. What's driving this work? What's going on? So when you look at the piece, here it is here. And so, look, this is the way I can explain it. So let's see. One thing I don't like, you got to confront what you don't like. And Queen Anne's feet in furniture. I just don't like it. But the idea of a trine, by the way, is actually the influence of this piece is not so much the arachnid forms of Bourgeois, but her use of vitrines, usually Victorian vitrines, to convey other information. Her brilliance just would always give you something. If you're an artist, it's okay. Check it out. See? Yep, it's there. Deal with what you hate. And also, you say, okay, I got him. He's Chinese American, but he has some ruts somewhere maybe in Asia. So let me look at this face, all right? Oh, I know Chinese art history. That's a Tao Te mask. The mask of gluttony found in Shang and Zhou dynasty bronzes. That's what it's about, man. But you're wrong, because it's the English bulldog. It's the English bulldog. See? You're gonna get a pop quiz in a bit, so that, you see it now? Yeah. But what's in the belly? What's in the belly of the vitrine? You just have this teapot and a silver tray. That's it. And it is a teapot that was selected from 1843, the last year of the Opium War. Opium Wars were extended for years and years, and it was predicated on the desire for tea on the British side and the Chinese demand for silver instead of gold. The British had already conquered most of the world and had accumulated all the gold. If there was gold, they could pay for it, but the craze for porcelain and tea was so immense, but the Chinese kept wanting silver. So they decided to do something else. They decided to illegally smuggle opium into China that resulted in a total breakdown of that society. And why I bring this up is because it's in my family. And my mother would never allow us to discuss, even breathe the word opium, because of the impact it had on her life and her own parent, and how it ended his life and pushed him into deep poverty. So it was unsaid, and I respected that until she left us. And I said, now I can speak. So this piece is about the monstrous addictions that occur in any home, any place, as we now see in fentanyl and opioids that wreck our country. And so this work is about the monsters of addiction that can spring up in any home, any place. And so, y'all know about Revival Field. You all seen it, right? Who knows about it? Looks like 1.5 person. Okay. Okay, it's St. Paul. Right on, St. Paul, a Pig's Eye landfill. Yay, okay. Let's do this. Okay. We're representing. All right. So here it is, and it's a small test site. And, people might think it's this physical, because we're art people, and we can look at the formal configuration. But it's not all that, nor is all the extensive field tests that we had to accomplish every year for 3 years. It's just 1 year. Or even the battles I had with the NEA. The stories are known. It's not just about this plant that has this remarkable capacity to pull up heavy metals at such a degree where you can ash the plant and get metal out of it and thereby clean soil. And it is about numbers that we were proved in 1993 because it was one of the first test fields in the world to give this kind of information to scientists. So it was an artwork that was conducted that kept on for many other years as well, but this is the test site that provided it. So it's a way of thinking about art beyond the object into ideas, the world of ideas, and what it can give you, right? So this is Harvest Day. Some of the plants were pulled out from there and sent to the laboratory for analysis, but also I saved them for this piece. And this piece is in the exhibition, is the Revival Field dioramas. Now, I love dioramas. Y'all like those things? Y'all dig it. And so I said, so when you love something, you say, well, I'm gonna make my own damn one, And that's what happened. So this is the diorama that explains it all, okay? So you have the actual stake from Revival Field with plants in it, and you have one path where the Telaspy ceruleans goes through that pipeline, goes into a reclaiming furnace at the top level, and then that ash is turned into an ingot of zinc and cadmium. You see, that's the track. So the other diagram shows while that's happening is pulling zinc and cadmium from the soil. By the way, zinc is good for us. Cadmium will kill us. But zinc will kill plants. So this is the relationship why zinc cadmium smelting creates miles of barren land. So And then if you keep doing it, then eventually you might have this Dürer-like landscape of diversity to return. All right? So, yeah, this is the title of the show, there's something happening here. That's my generation. We had a lot of things we said and songs we heard. That's Buffalo Springfield, right? And I think Madison was one of the places where I remember when at Berkeley East, it was happening when in the 60s and the 70s when I was going to go. I never made it up here until later. But so I wanted to dedicate the activism and the ideas that came from here was important. And this pipe bomb is an actual bomb, actually. If you load it with powder, it is a deadly object within the person to the person using it, if you were to light it. Why would I make something like this? I think I'm really addressing our world is comprised of many ideas and philosophies, and I was thinking about the responsibility of intellectuals to maintain an evolutionary critique over the ideas they present to society. It's not that you're wrong or right, by the way. It's more about how to not make ideas permanent and keep them within an intellectual discourse. You see? You can't always have a book X to scare the hell out of them. So this is a case where I'm calling forth. But at the same time, as we do this, it's a warning to myself that you're not free just because you're an artist or because you're male. I'm just saying myself. I am not free from this. So these are personal commentaries as well. I'm busy if they're. So, how are we doing? I'm gonna keep going. Y'all okay? All right. I'm gonna just keep going now. Y'all got me good? Okay. All right. So this is around 93, around the time the pipe bomb was being made. I was very invigorated. I was in New York City at the storefront for art and architecture, and it was a lot of theoretical architects are doing great things now and then, and artists and challenging ideas, very much about questioning this idea of intellectual ideas and what they mean. And for that, I didn't do it for this talk, but for this talk, I hid a sniper rifle under the table, and I pulled it out and pointed it at not really at the audience, but there was a very dangerous proposition I was proposing. I pulled it out and began to speak in the voice of a sniper ready to take out a person. A military sniper, actually under the guidance of Ronald Reagan as a professional killer for the United States government. And we'd have these counseling sessions where we would talk about why he had to be relieved as he began to have terrible ideas about it, that it was not right. And he was a killer. He was a sniper. The other thing I spoke in terms was the microphone was hidden in the scope, so that I became the microphone. And I spoke in the voice of an HIV virion coursing through the human body. Eventually, I put the rifle down and began to give the talk. I see the insurgent mechanics of infection. And this was a postulation that our world is transformed by covert military, business, political, and military practice. By the time it happens, by the way, we don't always know why it happened. We're witnessing some of that today. Though it was more transparent, we still didn't react to it. It was always going on, whatever was happening, and it takes years to find out after the tragedy has unfolded. And I was saying that, what if, because art, remember the term about remaking the world, if it comes from the principle of art, its intention is not to have power. Its intention is to have options that didn't exist before. And its purpose is therefore, as even the great James Baldwin had indicated, it is to extract the question that is buried within all the answers that are given. And so it's an obligation. So I was thinking, what if there was covert teams of artists? What if we could do things unannounced, unpaid, and insert ourselves like a virus within a climate that controls a popular mind frame and begin to exercise this capacity to give it an option that did not exist before. And it could necessarily not be my work because I can't be known for it. So this was kind of the rules that I laid out in this talk. So some art was made eventually, and sometimes you got to be artsy craftsy. This is a mosquito with yellow fever and malaria germs on it, viruses on it. So sometimes you got to be disgruntled. This is a U.S. postal mail bag with an AK-47 clip in the magazine section. Sometimes you got to be like David Hockney and just paint a nice little landscape. But where is this? This is exactly the spot overlooking the road where Rodney King was beaten in 92. And sometimes you have to discuss, is it advertising? Is it terrorism? What is it? And you have to put it out there, and this is the Murrah building blown out like the vodka ads of the time. And sometimes you just have to put it all in Melrose Place, this TV show, which we did. So we were the gala committee, a secret team of artists, young artists, college, graduate, professional artists, inserting artwork on a primetime television show for 2 years, secretly, and putting things like this. Let's see if we have something. You gotta be quiet. I think the audio is terrible.
And they invited me to see the Uncommon Sense exhibit tomorrow night. I know this is short notice, but you do appreciate art, and I thought you'd like to join me. Sorry if I stranded you, Clint.
No problem. I just did this exhibit. Got some phenomenal pieces.
Yeah. Fireflies. Looks like a bunch of dots to me.
More like firefight. Yeah, tracers, explosions. It's a bombing of Baghdad.
What do you think it means?
I think it's about a man's journey through war, memory. I think it's about killing what that does to a person. And it makes its mark. Deep, you know? Inside. So anyway, what is this night all about? You represent all these artists?
Well, actually, I represent the entire museum. But yes, that includes each of them.
Art, that's what it's all about.
Not yet.
No, I wanted to major in art,
Ah.
but it wasn't practical. So I majored in business and minored in art. I went through this bohemian stage where I considered forgetting about money and I just wanted to travel and paint. That was my dream.
What changed?
Poverty sucks.
Yes.
I tell you, as much as I love art, I am much more of a music guy.
Well, why didn't you do it?
Got by me, I guess.
Our dreams don't go anywhere. We just forget about it.
Amanda, excuse me, but the publisher from Art Forum is here to see you.
Okay, I'll be
Oh
right
no, she's going to Art Forum. We really wanted the script for her to stay with love and all that, but she have a time, she has a chance. No. There she goes. We lost her. So we made, in fact, we wrote The Fourth Wall because that was shot at MoCA. They showed the Geffen and they named the exhibition. We were able to do things on this because we were not a subversive team doing things to a television show. We're actually part of the production privately and secretly. We took no money. We did not take money for our production. We would do it for the sake of ideas being inserted onto this possibility. Here's an auction of a piece that did in the show of a Hockney-like painting where Marilyn Monroe was found dead. And so we would insert these informational ideas within the show itself. Eventually we had a auction at Sotheby's and all the pieces were sold to a German art collector, and all the funds were distributed to educational charities in Los Angeles and Georgia. We were called the Gala Committee, so you understand, G-A, Ga, and L-A, La. You see, we're really tricky. We have a member in our audience, by the way.
Emily.
Yes, I know. Emily is here with us, who's a professor here at the University of Wisconsin. Thank you. So, 2016, y'all still good? I'm going to keep going. Dang, time's a wasting. All right, Katrina. I'm only trying to compress 43 years of work. Come on. So this is Hurricane Katrina. Of course, like many people, I didn't go here to make art. You do not go to a disaster zone, in my mind, to make art. You go as a human being to help. And when I got there, I was moved to the degree, after listening to people, who they lost and what had happened to them, their psychology, their sociology, everything about them that was wrecked by the storm. And so I was stunned without a capacity to know what to do except to listen. And then to come back again and again to develop maybe something. So I learned that there was a disaster that was there before the storm hit. And it was revealed in this map. This is the map, I call it the red lead map, that was Howard Milkey's lab at the University of Tulane and Xavier University. And those numbers are numbers of lead in the soil. Lead in the soil. But what did those numbers mean, I asked them. He said, well, it means that 30 to 40% of the inner city childhood population is compromised or actually poisoned by lead before the storm. And there was no money to deal with it. There was all the talk about rebuilding New Orleans, but there was no funds for that. It was in the blood, actually. So we hear about pipes, we hear about soil, we hear about automobile lead, and we hear about dust in your houses, but basically it's in the blood of individuals trying to grow up with some possibilities, okay? With this weight that is entrapped physically within the mind. So this is the first safe house door. So we found a house where 3 kids had emerged out of this house in the 8th ward of New Orleans with lead poisoning. And we found the measurement of lead was about 7,000, 4,000 parts per million in the soil. The EPA danger level where no child should touch the soil is 400. And this is the situation all over. And it's also, I can guarantee you, these conditions exist in Milwaukee, here in Madison as well. It happens. It is a part of our legacy. And so we created hardware and we bolted it onto the door. And in the inside, we had hundreds that were the first 7,000 we collected and had meetings. We opened the door and we had science, we had sociological professors, we had health department officials there to engage with the people who wanted to listen. We had an armored truck that ran on vegetable oil that was stopping schools. Someone was here from the Ulrich Museum, and where's that? And okay, she's not there. Okay. Okay.
Hi.
Yay, we dropped by.
Yeah.
Hey, what's
I was
going on?
there.
There you go. There we have it. Because we didn't stop in New Orleans. We created fund. This is Tatiana Shelton. She did 100, but her drawings are just as important as Rosina Woolfolk Ward in St. Louis, who's 92. There's no age limit to how would you have to be. And we did go to Kansas City and Kansas City, Missouri. We went all these places for a purpose, to just get one drawing from each person. We're moving, so we went this far with the truck. And at first, the idea was even exchange. If we gather all these and we can even exchange and maybe pay for our remediation, we realized that was not enough because we found it in all these cities. And the purpose was actually to educate lawmakers to transform policy that could create a sustained action to bring about the prevention of childhood lead poisoning. that was what it turned into, a national response. So we kept it up. We had stacks, and it had people. We had, you can draw anything you want. If you haven't drawn one, draw one, because I'm going to tell you something in a minute here. So we created the Funded Reserve in D.C. We had one presentation of it, and then we brought the truck. We have the Funded Reserve, and this stack is about now approaching 500,000 drawings from all over the country. And we had the nice Speaker of the House meet us, and several times actually, where I would report to her how our progress was to bring in people from the cities that are affected who drew funders to meet their legislators, whether it's Republican or Democrat, did not matter, or independent. The idea was to speak to the citizens that they are responsible for and begin to engage in this policymaker education. So Nancy Pelosi was very much part of approving of this project. She is very highly educated about the impact of lead, and some of her earliest work was in lead and its effect on people in San Francisco. And so we brought kids that would speak to their own representative from Grand Rapids, Michigan, or wherever we needed to, and Flint. This is Jamal from Flint, talking about what he had gone through. So, and then things like this, sometimes you're tired by a project like this. It is hard. We had like 3 or 4 people running a national program day in and day out for 14 years. But when you're so tired, you'll see a report, this is in 2012, and you see this. And you see that the mayor of Chicago is bringing all these people to figure out why the gangs are doing this, right? All the policemen, and I sent them one map of the city of Chicago. These maps show like bad places to live, right? And that other map was from the city of Chicago itself, showing areas where kids had elevated lead in the 90s. And it's still that way, all right? So we went to Chicago and did this Safe House tour for the Sweetwater Foundation to leave a permanent. We thought it might be a bookmark. We thought it could end the project by putting another version of the Safe House, made out of solid steel, sheet steel, that could be there in a neighborhood that needed to exercise the value. It's not about them being poor. It's the value of their voice in the middle of these things and these tragedies. That was our impact, our relationship. That's the great Emmanuel Pratt, author of MacArthur Fellow, who runs the Sweetwater Foundation. And this door opens sideways like that, see? We're tricky. We're very tricky. And this is the way it opened in New Orleans. So this door is archival, it is historic, it is one of the most important icons of the project. When we brought it here for exhibition, it needed conservation. It had been traveling around the country, and we said, no, we have to take care of it because we can't lose it. So we were at a dilemma. Unfortunately, we had my curator, Leo Kolb, and I were working this out, trying to figure it out, and the director, Christine. We tried to figure out what to do. And we had options, but not many. So I decided that what we had to do immediately is go out and find a house in Madison, because it's the same conditions that existed in New Orleans. So this is a very direct way of saying, look, this is what the story is. This house built in 1922, 1921, would have the same conditions that were there within its walls, within its fabric, within its structure, the dust, and we wanted to make something locally impactful and related to where you live, here. And so we took a chance and we mobilized immediately. So this was the house that was slated for destruction and all the good, we checked it all out. And it was exhausting for like 48 hours, 50 hours. And thank goodness with the public art program, Karen is here?
Karen Wolf.
Yeah, Karen Wolf is here. Right on, Sister Karen. I don't know if Andrew, the Department of Engineering, he was here. Well, we got together, and one of those coder days y'all have, and decided, let's do this. As Baron Brown, my chief fabricator for 40 years, and he came in special and said, he told me on the phone, he said, I'll come in, we'll do it. And so the door was extracted, and here it is. It's done. We did it. And I feel this is a proper bookend of something that's not over. Until we end this threat of lead, it will never be over. So, but this is why it needs to be here and have your voice activated. We live in a divided America. That's for real, right? And this is the flag of America 2020. It's not here, but it's in another place. But I decided to make something that would properly represent our country. So critique, you could see, is a very big part of my effort. And so, let's say that. Okay. What the hell? The language of birds. So as I critique, there's poetry, there's song, there's art. This piece, this is a print made in Vinyl Press, and because, no matter how hard these, the piece is based on the Mantique Altair, a 12th century Persian poem that speaks about the search for God. In the Sufi tradition, they eventually find it within themselves. And this image, they're trying to communicate with each other what they have discovered. They're reaching out and they're doing it. But in truth, no matter how much poetry emanates from our world, there's also this dark abyss that it can fall into, which is another unfortunate reality. People say a lot of things. Man and turtle are very much alike. Neither makes any progress without sticking his neck out. All right. That's a Tennessee box turtle. That's Donald Rumsfeld. He also said this: you go to war with the army you have. And he talked to this Army, National Guard, Sergeant Wilson, right? Who was complaining about the Humvees that were being blown apart by IEDs. And they were going to junkyards to try to protect themselves, to put stuff under them. And this is why he was concerned. But Rumsfeld said, you go to the war with the army you have, and we're not going to fix it. This is the way it goes, right? I looked up how much, we're entering a phase of war and costs. And I just brought this up. And at that time, we were at this 2004 numbers, it was $257,808,219.18 per day was being spent in Iraq. But not enough to do that. So I looked at the size of a Humvee, I looked at the Tennessee box turtle, and so you make a piece, right? And you figure it out. And so I figured out I've got junk from different parts of Tennessee and North Carolina, where my studio is, and we created a full-scale protection out of junk that would fit a Humvee. This is the way it looks. So, when you make a piece like this, you say, okay, I did one for the troops now. They deserve it. Absolutely. And because they serve, whether Putin or whatever, they are doing it because that is their obligation. But I wanted to make something about them. But later on, I saw this article. And sometimes as an artist, you think you're done. I'm just done. I did the piece already. I don't have to do anything else. I made my statement. But this hit me. This was a Sergeant Mina, who eventually died. He was not even really quite treated for his post-traumatic stress syndrome. He was given a lot of pharmaceuticals, and he died. So we have the lights up. I wrote a song. I'm not a songwriter. And I wrote this song as a means of provoking empathy. It's a way of that, just because you're an artist, you don't corner it. you have to work it. You have to constantly come back to it and maintain an evolution of your capacities. And so I decided to write this piece after reading that article. And it's basically, it's called You Sent Me, Sir, and it's a letter from him who has passed to Donald Rumsfeld, okay? I'll see if I can do it. I haven't played in 3 years, so. This bill makes me calm on the calmest nights. This pill takes the edge off each imagined slight. This pill gives me slumber when the demons of the night claw my pieces back into the firefight. War never ends in my head. War never ends in my head. You sent me, sir. I just wish you'd gone instead. When you come from where I'm from, you take to service, it's what your family's done. Brothers, sisters, blown apart, hostile ground, lost forever. The sweet lover sound. And I'm proud to serve my country, toured again and again. Where hell unleashes fury, we killed without sin. But I can't kill the nightmare that crawls in my skin. I'm talking to a prescription, my one and only friend. Now go to war with the army you have. Come back with an army in a shell in a bag. I fought in the desert, now I fight in my room. Life has no measure of the weight of my doom. War never ends in my head. War never ends in my head. You sent me, sir. Just wish you'd all instead. Thank you. I hope I didn't go over too much, because I'd love a question or two, if you like, you know. I'm good with that. We'll also go up and do the gallery. Might take a look at the show myself. And, you know, get dust off of stuff, whatever. Complain about my own behavior. So, yeah. Or I can go there and y'all can just confront me directly. You know, I'm good with that too. Anything? Yay, all right. Cool. Oh, I got a point, that's right. I see something over there. Let's go that side first.
I just want to thank you for having your sense of humor through all your depth of awareness and action.
I think it's necessary, you know, I learned from the greatest of all, and that's the comedians, mostly black comedians. One of my favorite albums, I imagined the album cover was Richard Pryor's, you know, and I imagined him with his face, and there's some Klans people burning some crosses up in the distance. I don't think this album cover exists. I created it in my head, but that album was called, was it Something I Said? I think a sense of humor is one thing. I think I use it as a sense of survival. I'm truly stricken by the world and all its discontent, and you have to operate, and you have to be an operative within it. You cannot stop. So sense of humor is almost directly related to your survival, because look how things are going, right? All right.
Yeah. Do you have any enduring personal rituals? Like long-lasting rituals that you've done?
No, I think I've abused every aspect of health parameters my entire life. That's the only ritual, and I, you know, I regret it. So please don't do it. Follow, you know, get a self-help book or something. You're not going to make it. You don't. You know. No, I don't have any. I don't. I actually, you know, the way I say it is like when people ask me how long I've been an artist, I kind of tell people, well, I'm just trying to become one right now. And what I mean by that, as a conceptual artist, I don't have a predicated style or a motif or whatever I feel I have to get up and do. And I don't work that way. I think I react to a world and I am compelled instead of inspired to do things. I think that's an indicator. And there is something that the measure of why you should do something. And there's a lot of projects on the boards. And I measure it about its poetic capacity, how poetic it is as an idea. And then you try to test it, and you try to use a methodology of destroying it. You know, like I told someone earlier, it's like, I've said it before, a research to destroy my preconceived notions. You know, I try to go, I just don't consult with the internet, by the way, because I want to warn you, I don't think I need to buy any more of those hot water heaters or anything like that. But it's like, it's the choices of research are mediated by algorithms and not machines. And so you do have to, my advice to get out of that is to pick a lot of things to buy that you don't really want, that are weird, and pretty soon they will be confused and give you some freedom. When you're doing your research, you know. I don't suggest too many times checking out ivermectin, okay? Which I have. I mean, I checked it out, I don't take it. I might have digressed. Anybody else that wants to?
One more last question?
Yeah.
Oh, I have one. You do a lot of library research, but then also scientific research. I'm wondering if you could talk about how you learned your research skills.
And could you repeat the question just for the live stream too?
Oh, right on. She asked, I do a lot of research, and I do art research and scientific research, and how I go about that, and what motivates that, and okay. Well, revival field is a key one, because you can have a dream or something, you wake up and you say, wow, that'd be really cool if plants could, some hippie scientist maybe says it, like Terence McKenna. By the way, great advice as an ethnobotanist on different hallucinatory plants, and it gets you high, I can guarantee you. But Terence, and he was visionary, at his own time. However, scientifically, what he had postulated that, I think it was Horace Reviews, which is a great idea to get you started, but then the obligations, when you enter a world of societal engagement, it means it's no longer just what you want to do. You have a whole population, it's a code of, when I talk about responsibility, it's about responsibility beyond yourself, obviously, because what you do then will affect the lives of others. And so you find the scientists, and you look and you spend months maybe trying to go through the research to find someone who may have written a paper that you don't quite understand yet. And you consult with them, and you then have the conversation, and then respect them enough to know that they're not there to help you make art, but to read their books, to understand enough to have an articulate conversation about the science they're involved with. So it's a mutually agreed upon way of learning. It's motivated by an idea, but it's guided by a very pragmatic methodology. So you have to almost switch gears and unlearn or relearn or learn another language that you're not very familiar with, and be articulate enough to discuss, whether hyperaccumulators, the Russian papers on this, all the stuff, and get to the reality that you want to have, which was in this case a mutual dream. Could plants pull heavy metals out of the soil at the degree where you could rejuvenate a landscape that's dead? We're not there, by the way. Revival Field was essentially something that liberated the scientific field, where by providing a replicated field test, I learned that I needed to do a replicated field test so I could put in the test to prove if it actually could work. It's like this, in the old days, there were, and I say old, I mean it's 90s, there was like code fusion, and there was a lot of confusion whether it's real or not, and it was never replicated in the lab with adequate success, so therefore it does not get to science. So we had to do the test and responsibly and become like wedded to science and the needs of the desires of somebody else, so the dream of even a science that being birthed could happen. So that's just what you do, Thank you. All right, well, we're gonna go up. Thank you.